All right, welcome to another edition of the Queer Profits Podcast. Excited to be here today, as always, with a special guest. Before we get there, let me just remind you, you can always check us out on Facebook at Queer Profits Podcast. There's also a Queer Profits business group. If you'd like to join, just jump in there and I'll approve you. And just the other reminder is we do stand for three things at Queer Profits, always these same three things: inclusion, community, and growth. And I have a feeling that we're going to get into some of that in the conversation that we're going to have today. I'm honored to have with us Cheryl Luther. And Cheryl, I'm just going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll rock and roll and see where this takes us.
I appreciate that. Thanks for having me on. So my name is Dr. Cheryl Luther. My story starts way back when I was playing some soccer at Grand Valley. I earned a degree in communications, had no idea what I wanted to do other than play soccer. So I had to do a little soul searching. And once I graduated, I figured out I really love helping people. And how I was planning to help people was orthopedic surgeon. But then I realized really quickly that I pass out when I see blood. So that was going to be a no-go for me. I was a non-starter. So I was looking for alternative ways that I could help people. And I still wanted to work in sports because that was my background, coming up with soccer. Growing up with a lot of activities outside. So I ended up at Life University in Atlanta, and I earned 2 degrees there, my doctorate and my master's. And from there, I thought, oh, wow, I have all this education. I can go and put my shingle out there and I'll open my own business and it's going to be awesome. And that's just not how it works. It's a little bit harder than that. So my first go around, I'm sorry?
Build it and they will come. Only works in the movies, right?
Only in the movies, only. So I did put my shingle out there. I bid it pretty hard. I failed pretty hard the first go around. But I learned a ton. I learned a lot about people. I learned a lot about business. I learned a lot about myself. So that was a big eye opener, but a whole nother education beyond my formal education. And I'm so thankful for those hard years. From there, I moved around the country looking for my perfect dream job or dream situation. I was looking either to partner with somebody, be an independent contractor, an employee. I thought about opening another clinic, and that just scared me away because I had bid it so hard the first time around. So it took a little while, but I did land back in Michigan, where my family resides, and I took that really large leap and opened another clinic on my own. And this was after a couple of years of really not finding what I was looking for. So I opened Sport and Spine right in Plymouth, Michigan, and it was really successful. All the lessons that I had learned the hard way before that, I was able to put into use, and it was night and day from the first go round to this go round, and it was really fun to see. But then, as I mentioned, I played soccer pretty hard as a kid. And from the time that I stopped playing soccer until this point in my life, I was playing pro football. So women's pro football, first in Detroit, then Atlanta, and then back in Detroit. And I had a number of years and a number of injuries under my belt. So bending over a table as a chiropractor was not going to be in the cards for the rest of my life. So I ended up selling that practice. And I went into corporate, and then I was able to use all those same skills that I had learned through life in corporate and found extreme success. It was actually a heck of a lot easier in corporate than it was as an entrepreneur using this skill set. So it was really fun to see my team grow, my P&Ls grow, the organization grow. But corporate can be a little bit maybe not the healthiest place for a lot of people, mentally, socially, physically. I was on a plane all the time. I had gained a bunch of weight. I felt like crap. I wasn't eating well. So I was kind of like, time out. One of my core values is health and wellness, being a chiropractor. So I had to step away from that. And from there, I started consulting. Because of all my experience in the entrepreneurial world and then in corporate, I have a really interesting perspective to be able to help other businesses grow. So I started stepping into other facilities and helping other small businesses, medium-sized businesses grow through business operations. And that's the space that I'm in right now. I've had to pivot a little bit more online because of COVID, but it's a really fun space. I get to meet some really interesting people.
Yep.
And I love tackling the hard problems that people encounter in business.
Yeah. Very cool. So Cheryl, let's back up a little bit. Let's talk about, because you said a couple of times the hard lessons that you learned when the practices didn't work when you first got out of school. Let's talk about, give us 2 or 3 of what those hard lessons were and sort of what you took from them.
Sure. A really hard lesson is managing people. First off, hiring the right people, not just hiring, your friend's neighbor or roommate that needs a job. You really have to figure out, what do you need in your business, and what hole are you trying to fill, and what kind of individual is going to be perfect for that hole, and then go find that person, interview them properly in a systematic way, and then bring them on and onboard them in a way that they understand core values, your mission, your vision, how your processes work, and that they're going to be on board with those things so that they can grow with your organization. That was one of the hardest things that I learned is, you got to find the right people.
I think that's one of the hardest lessons for all of us is, how do you find those right people? Where do you look? Where do you get them? Where do you go? I think we all, at least for me, I've been in business, 30 years. And I think that's still one of the hardest things, it's easy for people to say all the right things. It's easy to look good in an interview, sort of like dating, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But when you get down to the day-to-day and the nitty-gritty and the real core values of the person, that sometimes doesn't show up until over time. And those can be some very, very hard lessons. So yeah, I think we've all experienced that.
100%. Yeah, you're completely right. Dating, business, you got to interview properly in both scenarios.
So true. Give us 1 or 2 more.
Sure. So marketing is a tough one. So you'll have, if you're a small business owner, people marketers, sales marketers are going to approach you constantly, and they assume that you have a lot of money. And if you're a small business person, you don't have very much money. So they think, oh, well, a $10,000 radio spot is going to be exactly what you need. And they try to sell you really hard on that. And if you're new into business and you think, oh, well, this is, they said it's perfect, I'm going to believe them. And then you spend the money and you get nothing. So you get a big goose egg for that really large investment that you should have done more research in what was best for your business. What category are you in? Where are your avatar, your people living that you can connect with them, instead of, $10,000 radio spot or magazine or, so you really have to do your research in where you're going to put your dollars. You have to make every dollar stretch as far as it possibly can go and get the biggest impact.
Yeah. What's interesting about that piece is people make a bad decision because they don't do enough research, and then all marketing is bad, right? Which is always interesting to me. But I had somebody, local business here in Atlanta, a couple of years ago call me, and she was interested in doing some stuff. And same story, right? She just spent $9,000. And what's funny is that when you get tied in with somebody like a radio person who sells you an ad that really wasn't right for you, you start to justify like they justify, right? So I heard this person say, yeah, I spent $9,000 on a radio ad, and being the direct response marketer who measures everything, my response was, great, what kind of response did you get? And you always know when there's that hesitation that what the answer is, right? Well, we didn't get any sales. And I'm like, wow, okay. And she says to me, but it's okay. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be interesting, right? I said, okay, how is that okay? She said, we were building our image. We were getting our name out there. And I just went, no, that's not why we invest $9,000,
Yeah.
But it is very interesting how, and I think you're right. I think, especially starting out, you get all these people coming at you with all these different things. How do you know what the right thing is? How do you know what the right decision is? How do you know where to invest your money? And part of it is exactly what you said. When you said avatar, I use target market, same thing, right? When you know who your target is, specifically who your target is, not women or not, men, but specifically this narrow, really focused in kind of approach to who your target is, it makes that answer so much easier.
Definitely. 100% agree with you. Yeah, it's it does, yeah, you could go down a couple of rabbit holes. Now, I do agree with some part of what your example was of you need to figure out what you stand for, what your brand image actually is. I wouldn't suggest spending $9,000 to do it, but if you have to go through a couple of small hurdles to really narrow that down, I think that that's going to be more fruitful on the back end. But I wouldn't suggest going that deep.
Yeah. There's so many relatively inexpensive ways to figure out target and research and some of that. Matter of fact, one of the things that I offer is a checklist. It's a target market checklist that goes through about, I don't even know, 15 or 20 questions, what sounds like a lot. And it is, because it's that important, right? I mean, once you know who your target is, I mean, if you said to me, and I use this example just as a funny, but if you said I wanted, I wanted men who live in Buckhead, Georgia, who have, one-legged purple parakeets who make between $50,000 and $100,000 a year, we can find that list, right? It's going to be small, but we can find the list of those people offline or online. And so you really do, it is about narrow focusing down to say, and I think what happens when we start talking about avatars and target market, people are so afraid they're going to miss somebody. Well, yeah, but if I only market to women, then what about the men? Well, they'll come, right? They'll hear your message if it resonates with them, and that's okay. I often say you either want a definite yes or a hell no.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep, and the rest will figure out where they fit on their own.
Yep.
I find that the more narrow I am, and the more I say no, as I interview people that want to work with me, the tighter my ship is, and the more profitable my business is, because I'm serving the people that need me the most.
Amen to that, boys. Rewind and listen to that sentence or two again. That's how important that is. I mean, I think you can't stress that enough, that your business will prosper. You'll make more money. You'll be happier. You'll be more focused. You'll be doing the things that you're supposed to be doing in your business when you do that, when you focus in and say, these are the people. Oh, you're this? No, I'm sorry. Let me refer you to someone, right? It's not about saying to somebody, no, go away. It's no, you're not my ideal client, but let me refer you to 2 or 3 people that might, that you might be a better fit for.
Sure, absolutely. The whole game is to be able to serve people at the highest level. And if I'm not that right person, I still want them to get the service or their need filled appropriately and to the best level that can be done. And I don't want to, for me, I would feel terrible if I gave them something that was just half-ass, or that they didn't get the what they were paying for, what they were expecting. I want them to get what they're expecting, and then have it be actually over delivered, so they're blown away, and then they can move on with whatever situation that they're trying to move on from.
Yeah, and I think I think sometimes we think, well, geez, if I do this, then yeah, I can learn how to do that, and so you take on business because you think, well, that's not my specialty, but I can do that. Mm-hmm. And then what happens is exactly the opposite of what you're saying, is people aren't blown away. They're not happy with it. And let's be real. It's not fair for you to learn on somebody else's dime. No. In my opinion, that's, it's my podcast. So you get to listen to my take on things, right? But it's just not. I mean, so they're not paying you to learn, they're paying you to do the work. And so there's so many just bad things that come out of working outside of your expertise, your realm of genius, if you will, that it's just not worth it in the long run.
Yeah, that scope creep is a no-go, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good to, so I want to take a step back and say, it's really great to learn new skills. It's really great to grow. But if you're trying to serve somebody at the highest level, it may not be in both of your interests to try to do it in that manner, as
Yeah,
far as having them pay
absolutely.
you and try to serve them partially.
Yeah.
Go ahead and do something for free, or ask a friend if you can work on a project with them in some manner. Build your skills in a different way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Keep learning, keep growing, keep doing new things. And my thing is test it in your own business.
yeah,
Don't test it on somebody else's business, right? If you learn something new and you want to start something new, that's great. Test it in your own business, see if it works. If you can get proof of concept and do it a couple of times, you got a new service you can offer,
absolutely, absolutely.
right? I'm a big proponent of learn, do, teach, not the other way around. Not just, well, let's take this out. Let's teach this. No, if you haven't done it. But that's old school, right? You learn it, then you do it, then you teach it.
Sure.
It's that whole build it and they will come thing. You can't throw a shingle up just because you feel like, oh, well, I can teach people how to build a business. Have you ever built one? Right? They'll get me started, Cheryl. Give me on a tangent here. So let's back up for just a minute because, I love talking about the whole sports angle. I played some people know this, some people don't, but I was the first class to play Division I. Anything, as the colleges moved from AIAW to Division I, but played softball at the University of Missouri. So I love having these discussions about sports and all that. How much do you think your soccer background played in the fact that you didn't quit after you had some, let's just call them not successes, failures, whatever word you want to use, you took some lumps, right?
Oh,
So
absolutely. I think I think that all kids, whether you're athletic or not, should play a team sport at some point in their life, because the interactions with other people help you grow. They're a mirror of what you're portraying. And sometimes you don't like that, what's in the mirror. And you have an opportunity to change that and morph that and grow from that within your team. I think that, sometimes you don't get the best coaches, but you love the sport. So you have a bigger mission behind your madness. And I don't know, maybe you don't get along with a teammate, but you love the sport. You still have a target that you're going for. So yes, of course, you're going to have lumps. You're going to have things that don't go perfectly. You're going to have some losses. You might have some injuries, but if you have a bigger goal at the end, I think it's a lot easier to keep going forward and keep trying and giving 100%. And I don't think that there are too many other outlets without sports to learn those skills, especially as a youngster. I think that right now our society is everybody gets a blue ribbon, and you get a pat on the head and everybody did great, even though there are clearly differences in levels and accomplishments. And
yeah, the thing that's interesting to me about that is that, I didn't grow up in the participation mode either, but you learn by having that place of, okay, they were first, they won, they scored more, she's a better, goalie than I am, she's a better whatever. I mean, there is a ranking, and that's just the way the world works. Pick anything, corporate, pick, chiropractic school, pick business, anything that you look at as an adult. There is a right, wrong, or indifferent. It's the way our society works, right? And so, if you don't learn that as a kid growing up, and I think sports is a great way to do that. I totally agree with you. Where do you learn it?
Yeah, I don't think that there are really too many outlets for kids to be able to learn how to interact with other people and how to stay connected to a target and a goal and keep working hard toward it.
Yeah.
I think sports are absolutely critical.
Well, I love the example you gave of, maybe you don't get along with a teammate. Okay, well, guess what? You're going to hire somebody at some point in your life, or be in a work environment, if you're not an entrepreneur or a business owner, where somebody rubs you the wrong way, or you don't. How do you know how to get through that? Because what are you going to do? Quit a job every time you have somebody, or fire somebody as a business owner every time you have a disagreement? I doubt it.
I mean, you could, but it gets really expensive and it's really draining. when you start hiring people, you realize how expensive it really is to hire somebody good.
Yeah.
And you don't want to get rid of them. So again, going back to the hiring process and making sure that you're picking the right people, and your background in sports or your background in and the obstacles that you've or the hurdles that you've been able to get over as a kid will be able to help you figure out who are your right people.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about going from owning your own business and it not being a success to making the decision to go get a job and be in the corporate world.
Mm-hmm.
How hard was that? Hard? Was that just a logical progression?
No, it was a difficult decision. After I sold the practice, I'll be honest, I floundered a little bit. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. I knew I couldn't bend over a table all day. I physically could not do the job that I had created for myself. And I didn't really want to manage other chiropractors. I wasn't in the headspace for that. I hadn't kind of graduated from player to coach, if you will. So I really struggled. It was a tough decision. But I knew I had a couple of core things that I really wanted to hit. I knew I wanted to travel. I knew I wanted to help people. I knew I wanted to stay in health and wellness. So I had a couple of parameters that when I was looking and searching, that I was trying to stay within. And when I ended up in the corporate position that I was in, it met all those criteria. And it was a fantastic opportunity. And my team was absolutely amazing. I had some incredible individuals, super smart, highly motivated, team-oriented, there for the greater good. We just had an incredible team when I was at the helm there. So, it wasn't a bad choice for me. It was just a different choice from where I was.
Yeah. You said something that's interesting that I think a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs do. You said, I created a job for myself.
I did.
Right. And so I think that's something that so many people do as they start a business or move from corporate to a business is and I remember when I first started out, I said to myself, if I could make $60,000 a year, now mind you, this was 25 plus years ago, 30 years ago, if I could make $60,000 a year and work from home, I'd have everything I could possibly want, right? Life would be perfect. That number quickly grew. And what I realized is nothing is perfect, but we so often do what you just said, right? We start a business and then what we end up doing is we have a job. We haven't created a business that gives us the freedom and like you said, the travel or whatever it is that you want to do. And it's interesting to me because most times when I ask people, why did you start a business? It's one of two answers or the combination of the two, right? Time and money freedom, or one or the other, or a combination of both. So talk a little bit about, how do you move from creating, because let's face it, most people, when they first start a business, you're creating a job.
For sure.
Right? Because then you've got to leverage and grow and scale and all those things to have the business. So talk a little bit about sort of how you make that transition from I created a job for myself to owning a business.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think that takes a lot of inner work to be able to get to that space, because I think most entrepreneurs are accidental business owners. They go in because they love something. They have a passion for something. They think that they can do it better, or that they think that if they do it, just like you mentioned, they do a certain amount, they can create enough money to have the time freedom to go and do whatever they want. But the reality is the complete opposite. Once you start a business, you are tied to that business. And if you want it to succeed, most likely you're going to spend a lot more time in that business than you would in a job, in a job. And it's not going to be just revenue. You have to make that revenue happen. So I think a lot of people get into business not understanding what a business is. They go into creating just beyond a hobby. They're creating something that's making money, but it's not an actual business. And I think reading a lot of books, talking to some mentors, maybe sitting in a couple other businesses and watching what happens is a good place to try to change that mindset. But you have to want to change it. You can't it just doesn't happen. You have to want to have that business. And being able to make that transition from, as I mentioned, like player to coach it's a big transition. It's a mental shift. So to be able to make that mental shift, you want to be able to say, hey, I don't have to be the one that has my finger on this piece of control. I can step back and I can teach somebody else how to do it perfectly, but I don't have to be the one to do it. You have to be okay with that separation. And if you're not okay with that separation, just plan on being a hobby. It's just a job. You created a job. But if you're okay stepping away and creating something bigger and being able to serve more people, then I think that person is ready to be able to say, okay, I want actual business.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and I love the fact, right? I think the thing that you hit on the nail on the head with is what I talk a lot about is this whole idea of you're an entrepreneur, you're a control freak. Period. In the report, just own it, right? I mean, like that's part of, I think, what happens for most people is we're a control freak and we think we know the best, we can do it the best, we're the best at it because after all, it's our business. And so how do I then now let somebody else do it? How do I let go of this piece of, because it's not just your business, it's your baby, right? You've fallen in love with this idea that you've developed. And so talk a little bit about like, how do you give up that control?
I think it's a good question. And I think that part of that is maybe shifting your control. So I think that the type of person that you are is really hard to change. That internal, like I have to have control over something. But what you're controlling can be shifted. So I don't have to be like, so go back to chiropractic. If I were to do it all over again, I don't have to be the one that is manually touching somebody. I can teach somebody how to do that. I can step back and coach them on how to interact with the client. I can coach them on how to bill insurance. I can coach them on the bigger things. And then I can bring in another doctor and I can coach them and we can start to expand. So it's shifting what you can control and having the mindset that it's not going to be exactly perfect how you would do it, but it's good. It's still good because you've trained the people to be good. Yeah. And then you step away and you can control what happens with the business and you can control the vision and you can control the direction. And whether or not you stay in chiropractic or you expand and you add massage therapy or you expand even further into PT. I mean, I'm just using this as an example. Sure. That's my former background. But I mean, your business you can control the direction of your business if you're able to step away and not have your finger on every single touch point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. The example I often use with people is I'll say, you do the job at 95%, right? Which is here. What if you hired somebody, and they were at 80%? Well, there's a gap. Yeah. But the question is now, what do your clients expect? Their expectation is here. Mm-hmm. Right. And so there's still a gap between the expectation of the client and the work that they're getting. So it doesn't have to be perfect and doesn't have to be you. But what happens now is, you've hired this person, they've freed up 5, 10, 20 hours a week of your time. Well, guess what? You've got more time to be productive, more time to develop new things, more time to expand the business, to work on scale, to be leveraging and all of those other things because you took that one step. And yeah, it's not perfect and it's not going to be exactly, maybe what you would have done, but it's good enough because the expectation of the client is still being exceeded. And I really believe that's a big way that you scale in your business.
And you can also use that same time that you just mentioned to be able to do process improvement. So you can deliver even more and better to the client in the long run because you're able to take that time and make it a better experience for your client. So you just elevate everything.
Yeah, that's a great point. So we've talked a lot about sort of the control and the moving beyond the sort of the accidental business. And another word that you've used a lot is mindset. So let's talk a little bit about that piece of, being in business and what it takes mentally to sort of overcome these challenges and to move to that new place. What I often say is you don't change the spots on a tiger, right? You just sort of said the same thing a minute ago in a different way, which is, we are who we are. But having that sort of conscious thought of, I need to make some changes, 90% of that is mindset. And so how do you get to the point where, one, you realize that, and two, then that you're able to actually make those changes?
You're asking some hard questions here.
Welcome to my world. Isn't it fun?
Yeah, mindset is absolutely critical to being successful. And I think that if you're not strong mentally in being able to understand what you want, where you want to go, and your why isn't big enough, I think just find a job, stick in your job. It's okay. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your money. Because being an entrepreneur, being a business owner is not an easy gig. You really have to have some fortitude and a real deep reason why you feel like you can serve people in a different or better manner. And if you don't have that really strong mental attitude, most people don't succeed. And I think that's within the statistics of small businesses. That, what is it? I think, I'm not sure if I was talking to you or somebody else. I think it was like 3 or 5% actually make it beyond 10 years. So, it's a small, slim sliver of our population that has that mindset that nothing's going to stop them. And I think that, again, goes back to sports or team oriented activities as a kid, as a teenager, young adult, that there are going to be hurdles, and you have to be really creative on how to get around those hurdles or over those hurdles. And if you're not willing to put in the effort and the work, well, this is just not your game. This is, go find a different game. Everybody has, not that it's a bad thing, go find what's good for you. But to be an entrepreneur, to be a small business owner, it takes a lot of heart and a lot of effort.
Yeah. And, I think sometimes as business owners and entrepreneurs, we take for granted that everyone's like us, that everyone has that same stick-to-itiveness and that same perseverance and that same drive. And it's interesting. I had a conversation with somebody about a week ago, I guess, and she made some comment about somebody was concerned that she was after their job. And the comment that she made was, I'm just not that ambitious. I want to go to work, and at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or 3 o'clock or whatever time that you get off, I want to go home and just be home. Like, I don't want to take stuff with me. And I thought to myself, isn't it great that people are aware of who they are and what they want, and that we're not all like that. And that, not that there's anything wrong, I didn't mean by that, but right. But we all have differences. And I think recognizing the fact that, yeah, I'm driven. Yeah, I'm still at 57, I'll be 58 in August. I'm still, plugging forward. I'm still, driving. I still feel like I'm new to the game a lot of times, and I still want certain things. And yet not everybody, my age, not everybody who's 30 years younger wants those same things. And I think recognizing that's the biggest part, I think, is recognizing who you are, what your strengths are, and what you want. And then
absolutely
go for that.
Definitely. Yeah. There's a wide range of opportunities for all sorts of different people in this world. And I think if we loop it back to business, as a business owner, as a business manager, I think that it's really, really crucial for that manager to be able to understand what kind of people that they have surrounding them. And I'll be completely honest, some of those people, those 9-to-5ers, I want some of those people on my team, because you have to have balance in certain situations. Yeah. And sometimes those are your best get it done kind of workers, because they're going to work real hard in that time slot, and then they're going to walk away and they're going to come back fresh. Yep. They're not going to think about all the business stuff. They're not going to think about how do I gain that next ladder rung? How am I going to, knock so-and-so off of their pedestal? How am I going to, they don't think about all that stuff. They think about, hey, I've got Johnny's soccer game at 6 o'clock. I got to get off at 5:30 on the nose. And they come back in the morning and they're ready to go. Yep. So I think it's really important for a leader, a business owner, and a manager to understand that there are different type of people that exist, and that they have a place and they have a ton of value in who they are and how they fit in the bigger pie. Yep. I love that. And
I just want to clarify too. So Cheryl and I are both sports people, right? So we have that whole, like, we think the only way you can learn these lessons is to have been involved in sports. There's plenty of other things, right? Clubs and activities and things where you get some of those same skills, and some of the, potentially for somebody else, it's band, right? Being a band leader. And so I'm always going to be the sports person. And yeah, I totally agree. So much of what I learned, I learned through sports. But I think that just to make the point that there are other kinds of things that give people sort of those same kinds of things. So
Definitely.
Cheryl,
Lots of activities out there.
yeah, absolutely. What's the best business advice that you think you ever got, or that you sort of want to make sure that people get from our conversation?
Business advice. Well, there's been some good stuff and some bad stuff. I would say, I think the overall picture would be, don't give up. If you really believe in something big enough, you find a way. You stay up late, you talk to somebody new, you find something creative, and you just don't give up. And I think that goes back to Napoleon Hill. And I don't know, I'm sure most people listening to this podcast have probably heard about Napoleon Hill, and the gentleman who has to go get the vase, and he doesn't give up. And it's trial after trial after trial after trial, and he still does not give up on this vase for this gentleman who's paid him to go get this thing that he can't get. And it's been set up that he can't go get it. And yet he still is successful. So I think that piece of advice is golden, as far as you just can't give up. If you really have a deep enough why and you have a mission, just keep going. Show up. Even if you don't want to, show up.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. There's always a way, right? I mean, don't give up, to me. That doesn't mean keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, right? You're butting your head against the wall and you keep doing it because, well, Cheryl and Diane said, never give up, never give up, never give up, right? No. Go under, go over, go through, go around, find a different road to get where you want to go. And maybe not only the road is different, but maybe the end result is different, right? I mean, you didn't end up being a practicing chiropractor, or end up having, and yet you fulfilled those things that you want to do in your business. Why? Because it wasn't so much about chiropractic, it was about helping people. And there's all sorts of ways to help people. It doesn't have to be through, so don't fall in love with your idea, or fall in love with the thing that you think is the vehicle that you think is going to take you to where you want to go. Sometimes changes.
Oh, absolutely. That's a great point. Definitely.
Yeah. So where do you think we didn't talk a lot about the whole LGBT thing, which is fine because the business stuff is important. Where do you think we're going as a community, and what do you think are sort of the things that we should be concentrating on?
I think that's a great question. So where we're going as a community, I hope that we are becoming more inclusive. I think that one of the things that we've struggled with as a community is that our LGBTQ plus, we're in categories. I'm in the L category. I have friends that are in the T and the B and the gay. Everybody, we have these different categories. And I the unfortunate thing is that when one of our, I'll call them letters, are attacked, we group together and we become one force. But internally, if you were to look at the gays versus lesbians or transgender individuals, we are so separate. We don't understand our own communities, our adjacent communities. And I think that is a space that we really need to explore. We need to hang out with those individuals. We need to have conversations with those individuals and actively reach out to them. And I think I'm hoping that we're becoming more inclusive as we go forward. I'm hoping that we're starting to understand the different groups a little bit better, but I'm not completely confident in that.
You're talking my language. That's one of the reasons that I moved away from LGBTQ plus and went with the word queer. And I had some backlash. I had some people who said, it's a word that I'm not comfortable with. It's a word that's, that's pulverizing in our community. And my response to that is, I understand that. And it's the only word I know that is inclusive of all of us, right? Whether you're gender nonconforming, whether you're the L to the G, the B, the T, the Q, the I, the A, the L, it's this piece of how do we do that? How do we become, and it's a big conversation that I have on the podcast all the time, is this idea that and if you listen to the podcast at all, you've heard me tell the story about walking into a networking meeting where all the gay men are on one side, all the lesbians are on another, all the trans people are over here, all the Black people are over here. And it's like, what are we doing? Why aren't we? And, I sit at the table with a gay friend of mine, and I leaned over at one point in a networking business meeting and said to him, yep, look, all the tables except the one I'm sitting at. And Jack always leans over and says, yeah, Diane, that's because the gay men haven't figured out that their best friends will be lesbians if they'll just get to know them. And we laugh about it, but it's true. And I think, this piece of us versus them, and part of it is a reflection, obviously, of society. We do the same thing in society. We tend to hang out with people who are like us, and yet we can't grow internally in ourselves if all we have are the same opinions and the same ideas and the same thought processes with that. So I love that you said that, and that you brought that piece up, because that's something that's really near and dear to my heart, is this piece of how do we become more inclusive as a community. Do you have ideas about that?
So if you asked about business advice, I did have a really interesting business woman give me some advice. That was a while ago. I was still pretty young in my I just started my first chiropractic practice, and she's lesbian. She had some experience under her belt, but one of the things that she told me was, one of the things that made her so successful, and she encouraged me to do it also, is when you walk into the room, find the most interesting looking or speaking person. Go find somebody that's completely different from you, and basically the opposite of what you would go after, and try to have a conversation with them and see where it goes. And that's been pretty fruitful. I've had some really interesting conversations. I have some really great friends that I would have not normally interacted with. And I think that is, if we just give other people a chance and go in with an open heart, with good intentions, and hoping that they have the same, you can get a lot further than trying to stay in your little bubble. Yeah. There's so many interesting people out there. Yeah. And if we could just connect a little bit, I think we could elevate all of us and help everybody succeed, and then serve more. And that's one of my themes. I want to serve more. I want to help more people, and I think that we can do that together. And another piece that I think is really important is being able to bring up the younger crowd. Mentorship is really important to me. Being able to bring up kids that either want to be in business, maybe they're having a hard time, they don't understand the sports team that they're on, maybe they're in band, maybe they're, complete opposite of what I would do is play video games, but maybe that's their thing. But having young kids that are maybe in one of these letters, or maybe they haven't figured it out yet and you can identify it, to be able to bring them up and say, hey, come with me to this networking opportunity. It could be a straight networking. It doesn't matter. Just come with me, and give them an opportunity to see that people in our community are doing wonderful things. We're extremely bright. We have a lot of great services that we're offering other community members, and show them how to do it. I think that was one of the things that I craved the most as a kid, is mentorship, is somebody that understood me, my story, and that could show me a way forward rather than me groping in the dark and trying to do it all on my own.
Yeah. Yeah. So, isn't that the truth, right? Somebody who was to know that you weren't the only one, right? And have that kind of feeling. So that's great. Well, Cheryl, this has been amazing, as I knew it would be, but we certainly have gotten into some pretty good business stuff, and certainly now some specific stuff to the community. So I certainly appreciate your time. Why don't you give everybody, how they get in touch with you if they're interested in talking to you or hiring you or having you come in?
Sure. There are two ways that people can reach out to me. You can reach out to me on Facebook or on LinkedIn. My name is the same in both. So Cheryl, Cheryl A Luther, Luther. Go ahead and reach out as a direct message, and I'll respond to you quite quickly. I'm on there all the time. So either LinkedIn or Facebook is the best way to reach me.
Perfect.
Thank you for having me on.
What's that?
Thank you for having me on. It's
Yeah,
been a pleasure
absolutely.
speaking with you.
Anything else that you want to sort of, any last words or anything you want to leave folks with?
Just reach out, connect with other people. People are interesting, and have an open heart.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think sometimes we lead with our differences instead of our similarities. And I think if you have that open heart, you find out that there's a lot more similarities between people than there are differences. And you know, you either overlook the differences or you don't, right? And I think that's a choice that we all get to make. So so thank you very much. This has been great. Just as a reminder, you guys, check us out on Facebook at the Queer Profits Podcast. There's also a group I'd love for you to join. It's Queer Profits, where we talk a lot about business stuff. I'm posted in there a lot and having some interactions. Just as another reminder, you can always go to queerprofits.com for the free report. 3 keys to growing your business fast and getting more clients and making more money, which is ultimately, as the capitalist that I am, what it's all about, while you're helping people making more money. So I'm Diane Conklin. I'm your host of Queer Profits Podcast. Again, just to remember, we talked about inclusion. I told you that we would. Inclusion, community, and growth are the 3 pillars that we're all about. Until next time, make it a great day.